two knee replacements, two very different recoveries. And it doesn't even matter if they are your own body, they are very different. By my second knee replacement, I had my range of motion back in just a couple weeks, whereas in my first knee replacement, it took me the full 6 weeks. And it wasn't luck either. It came down to what I did differently going in. So in this video today, I'm going to talk to you about the 3 things I did exactly the same through both knee replacements, what I changed the second time around, and the one thing that I got wrong that I want you to learn from instead of finding out the hard way like I did. So the first thing I did for both of them was actually getting a vision and connecting to the result that I wanted before I went in for my knee replacements. You kind of got to know where you're going. Like, you just don't get into an Uber and just go somewhere, right? You put in a destination for where you're going, and your knee replacement is exactly the same. I figured that out early on, and that's why I created a vision for what I wanted afterward. Going into my first knee replacement, I didn't really want a lot of specifics on the procedure. My doctor talked to me about the risks, and I leaned into the result that I wanted instead. See, my husband proposed to me 3 weeks before my knee replacement, and I really wasn't expecting that, and it ended up being a blessing in disguise because I knew what I wanted to wear on my wedding day. I knew I wanted to be in 3-inch heels, and I know who I wanted to be on the other side of it. And for knee number 2, I just decided I was going to get into the best shape of my life, and that is a work in progress. And I actually talk a lot about designing that vision for yourself in my free ebook. I go into vision, guarding your thoughts, and actually paying attention to the words you speak, which is the second thing that I did for both knee replacements. Alongside creating that vision, I was extremely careful about what came out of my mouth regarding my healing, because what I said actually shaped what I believed. And the biggest change for me was not saying that it hurts all the time. I would replace "it hurts" with "I'm healing." So when a friend would ask me, "Susie, how are you doing?" I would say, "I'm healing." And they would say, "But doesn't it hurt?" And I'd be like, "Well, yeah, but it's healing. It's different." It was a different pain, because for me, I needed to keep telling myself that the pain wasn't the same as it was pre-op, because our brains naturally want to go to something that's familiar. And this pain is not your pre-op pain. This pain is a healing pain. But I didn't just do that throughout recovery. I actually did this before surgery because I knew at some point I was going to need to flip from degenerating pain to healing pain. So I just kept telling myself, yes, it hurts now, but soon it's not going to, or soon it's going to be a healing pain. So I chose to see myself healing even before I had the surgery. Number 3 is probably the biggest thing that I did, was just really taking an assessment of my surroundings and what it was that I did that I wasn't going to be able to do after my surgery. So I knew going in for knee number 1 that I was the primary meal person in my house. So I did the grocery shopping, I did the cooking, I did the kitchen cleanup, because that's what I like to do. I like to cook. So I knew I wasn't going to be cooking much after my surgery. So that meant I needed to be doing a lot before I went into surgery. So I did a lot of freezer meals, and I did a lot of things that my husband could just thaw out and cook. So by knee number 2, which was about 3 years later, my husband was pretty well versed in the kitchen. So he knew how to defrost things and how to just throw it in the crock pot. And by that time, I actually was making sheet pan meals as well. So he would take them from the freezer and either throw them in a crock pot or throw them in the sheet pan. So I designed meals that would be easy for him to take care of. And that's why I threw an entire Fuel Your Body module inside the knee replacement hub, because I wanted to include freezer meals, crock pot meals, and sheet pan meals, and all the things that would make meal prepping so much easier for somebody. Now, there are things that surprised me for my first knee replacement that I made adjustments for my second knee replacement. Knee number 1 kind of threw me in loops that I really didn't expect. For example, I needed to sit down for a whole lot of things that I wasn't having to sit down a lot for before my surgery. That was like getting dressed, brushing my teeth, putting my makeup on. All of those required me to sit down. Those were things that I could stand up for before, and I just wasn't able to do that after my surgery. Another one, and this was a big one, was I didn't know that I could take an over-the-counter pain reliever in between my prescription. Of course, they had to be spaced a couple hours apart, but those first few hours, like the first 48 hours, those were a little sticky to get through because I didn't have that piece of information. Oh, and the other thing I didn't know was normal was my wound was oozing and I would get zingers, like the feeling of little ants crawling up and down your leg. Those things were normal. In fact, there was a lot more normal than not normal. And the one thing that I did different going into knee number 2 that made all the difference in my recovery was going in stronger. Look, for the wedding, I needed to get strong. I wanted to get strong. I wanted to get into shape and kind of transform my body. So that's what I did. I started lifting and I started getting stronger, and I liked the way that I felt. So I knew that getting stronger for knee number 2 would make all the difference, and it sure did. My range of motion came back in just a couple weeks instead of 6 weeks. Where I did get it wrong is on my extension. Because I knew how important sleep was to my body, I decided to get my body as comfortable as possible, and I propped my leg up on pillows. I put pillows behind my knee while I slept, and I was able to sleep, but that didn't help my extension at all. Let's just say it took a full 12 weeks to get that extension back. I don't suggest it. I certainly don't condone it. That strength early on really helped me regain that range of motion, and I know that it helped in my extension for the long term. And that's exactly why I included a section in my free ebook. That ebook is jam-packed with the things that I spoke of in this video, and I'm happy to link it in the description for you to grab right now. And if you're curious about what the next 6 weeks of recovery looks like after your knee replacement, I suggest you grab this video right here that talks about the timeline of recovery. I'm Suzie Andrade, and I'm here to make sure that you have a calm, confident recovery.